Hi, Blair here with MXM. I was in a conversation yesterday talking about a concept that Dan Ariely talks about in his book, Predictably, Irrational, about the difference between a social contract and a market contract, right? And a purely market contract it's pretty transactional. I'll pay you this if you do that. And it's a market contract on both sides of that contract. A social contract is very different. A social contract says, I'm going to do this because it's the right thing to do, or because it makes me feel good to do that. He has a great example about the difference between a social contract and a market contract, and he says, suppose you go over to your in-laws for Thanksgiving, and your mother-in-law cooks an incredible feast, and everybody has a great time, and you finish dinner, and you say, God, Mom, that was outstanding. Here's $400 for the dinner, right? So he says, imposing a market contract in the middle of a social contract is a very negative experience. But imposing a social contract in the middle of a market contract can be very positive. So it dawns on me, going into this shutdown, that the companies, the clubs, the organizations that have always had an element of a social contract, meaning we're always going to do the right thing, we're always going to treat you right, are the ones that are going to probably bounce back the fastest out of this. And the companies that always treated everything as a transaction or a purely market contract, and by the way, it doesn't mean that their marketing didn't say, we're incredibly friendly, we value our members, but once you go in and experience clubs, oftentimes you find out that that isn't true, and that everything is extremely transactional, and you are the transaction that's taking place. You know, during the membership sale, during the personal training sale, maybe even at check-in. It's very, very, very transactional. The way that companies succeed is by balancing those things, and it's going to be more and more important coming out of this because people are expecting now a certain part of a social contract from you. Keep me safe. They're going to expect a different level of courtesy and friendliness, and I've said the stark difference between the excellent and the mediocre is really going to come into sharp focus in this. So the way that you understand how your market contract is balancing with your social contract is by listening to your customer. The voice of customer is telling you. Net Promoter Score is a great way to understand if you are fulfilling the expectations of that social contract with your members. And then your finances is that worthy of more value? So is having a bit of a social contract, does that really make me more marketable and have a better ROI? Now the answer is consistently yes to that question. A reminder that clubs are reopening. We have a free reopen feedback system available to anybody at mxmetrics.com. All we do is demystify the member experience and make it easier for you to understand how to deliver a great member experience. Stay distant, stay active, stay safe. We'll talk to you later.